What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Light Lessons with Sierra. We are on our 11th light lesson. 11th light lesson. I cannot believe this. In order to kick off this amazing 11th light lesson episode, I wanted to bring on somebody who literally embodies all of the light lessons. It's very hard for me to put into words who this human is for me in my life, and also for anybody that knows her. She's like an actual earth angel, okay? She's an actual earth angel. She is a true light worker. I've known her since I was 7 years old. She has been an incredible influence in my life. Her name is Rita Berglund. Rita is a licensed psychotherapist and has an amazing practice here in Colorado. She is one of the most influential, inspirational, extraordinary people that I have known for my entire life. As you know, I love to bring on people that are literally living their lives, bringing light to people in whatever way that is. Rita's story is inspirational, heartbreaking, beautiful, full of wisdom and healing. I know that you are going to love her as much as I do. I am so excited. She sat down and had this conversation with me around the word surrender. So, my fellow light workers, we are about to level up with Rita Berglund leading us in a conversation around the word surrender. Oh my God. This is the extraordinary Rita Berglund. I've known you, Rita, since I think I was 6 or 7 years old.
So I think that qualifies me, apart from your family, as one of your earliest fans. Can I claim that?
Yes, you may. So I can say you have always been somebody for me that I look to, that has just embodied pretty much every single light lesson that's in this bag. So I just want to start by telling everybody that when I asked Rita to do this, I sent a list of the light lessons. And to me, I'm like, please, you can talk about any of them. I thought Rita will choose empathy because Rita she's an empath. That's how I even first learned about the word empathy, is because of who you are. So I said to you, I thought you were going to choose empathy, and you were like, that's easy. You know how, and so you actually chose what I think is one of the hardest light lessons in the bag. Would you agree with that?
Yes, and one of my immediate questions is, why did you choose that? Because I know you spend a lot of time choosing those words, so I'm curious.
Well,
why did you choose that?
How dare you? Because that was my first question for you, is why did you choose that? I'll answer first because mine comes from obviously what I do for a living. So the idea of surrendering when we're on stage or when we have to do something that I deem as brave, even just and you have to surrender to what is and surrender to what the audience is giving you. So the act of surrendering, I think, is one of the hardest things to do and the most rewarding, because then you haven't manipulated what's coming back to you, just surrendered.
Yes, preach it, girl.
Okay, all right. This is surrender, the light lesson. And on it, I put a butterfly. The butterfly represents the ultimate of surrendering.
Right, because the butterfly has to surrender everything in the chrysalis in order to transform. There's no transformation without surrender.
So with that being said, Rita, why did you pick the hardest light lesson?
Well, as I was reading over the words, of course, that one just punched me right away. I could just feel the energy go, and it's a combination of things. One of them is, I think the word itself holds a paradox, right? It holds both the absolute devastation of defeat, like in war, right? And it also holds the amazing bliss in skillful lovemaking, right? It's that point where we let go of everything to be a part of something bigger than us.
Ooh.
And and somehow those two things are connected. And that makes me uncomfortable. And it also creates this space of possibilities and transformation that it's not always without pain. It also, I mean, it's been coming up a lot with our whole experience with COVID,
Yep.
right? I mean, all of our illusions of control have been ripped away and continue to be ripped away. You know, we think, oh, this has got to resolve soon, and it doesn't. So I think there's this invitation that keeps coming for us to step into the bigger story of this, bigger than ourselves individually, bigger than our families, bigger than our politics, our country. It's a global call to solidarity. And there's something about that I want to keep in perspective. And I think surrender supports me doing that in some unique ways. So along with this, like calling us to something so much bigger than ourselves, I think there's something about surrender that allows us to cooperate with some sort of bigger creative power, which is kind of what you're talking about in the theater, right?
Yes.
Like we get to care about and create something that communicates something that's bigger than all of us, you know, that can really call us back to our humanity, back to our highest selves. And I think there's something about that that's so brilliant and so needed right now, right? It's like
Agree.
we need to be digging into this, not being just something we tolerate, but something that actually transforms us. And I don't think that happens without surrender. Becoming brutally honest about this is me now, this is my day now, this is my relationships now. And even though it's really uncomfortable to be so pushed into like the present moment,
Yep.
that's where the work is.
Amen.
You know, particularly as a therapist, that's where I'm always bringing people in my office. What's happening right now, right here, in your body, in your heart, in your head, and what's keeping you from aliveness.
Ooh. And is the answer most of the time surrendering?
It's certainly a big part of it. And it's also the scariest part of it, you know, because it is where we are most vulnerable. It's where I have to admit, oh, yeah, I lost that battle. I was defeated. That thing put me on the ground. And we don't want to always look at that, you know, even when we're with somebody we really trust and that isn't going to judge us or criticize us.
Yeah.
It's still hard to go there because I know I'm going to criticize myself, right? I'm going to judge myself. So I have to deal with that part of me that just wants me to put the armor back on and pretend that it didn't happen. And as you know from our family story, you know, a big part of learning the power of surrender came from our journey with our son when he was diagnosed with brain cancer at age 4. And probably within the first, I would say 48 hours, we were introduced to an oncologist, a pediatric oncologist, Dr. Ed Aronson, whom we dearly love still to this day. And he said, you have to say the word cancer to your son. And I just, you can tell it still just goes right into me. Because he said, you won't really be able to face into this until you can speak the truth of it. And of course, we had to practice speaking the truth of what was happening to our son, what was happening to our family. And there was something about surrendering to that truth telling that became the very thing that empowered us to take the next step, and then the next step, and then the next step. And of course, we all laughed when Harry Potter was the one who would say Voldemort,
Yeah.
you know, to name the truth of something that nobody else wanted to think about, talk about, or admit still existed. So I think there's something about surrender that's connected to really deep truth telling. And of course, that also leads to very great liberation, you know, because now that thing doesn't have to have power over us anymore. I can say the word cancer and it has no power over me, right? It's a part of our story, but it did not get to tell our story.
Yeah.
It did not get to tell my son's story. We worked leaning into everything so that we could write the bigger story for him, for our family, for our daughter, Brianna. It was like, this is not going to tell our story. There's a bigger story here. There's a bigger journey. And if we hadn't surrendered, it might still have a lot of power over us rather than liberating us. So there's that thing about surrender and truth telling that I just love, because I think eventually we lived into that liberation.
Yes. You, to me, were the ultimate manifestation, all of you, of literally Chrysalis and Butterfly and the liberation. And for Brandon, too, the ultimate transformation and the surrendering that I also witnessed from all of you and from him.
Yeah, and it happened over and over. You know, you think you've done all the letting go you can do, and then something else shows up, and oh, I have to let go of that too, and I have to let go of this. The way I thought my family would be, the future I thought we would have, the things I thought we would do on vacation. I mean, everything changed. And with surrender, it created space for us to receive a very new kind of family, a new kind of life, new ways of being on vacation that are so immensely precious to me, you know, and we wouldn't be who we are without all of that, without the letting go and being melted into nothing in order to be transformed into the next manifestation of us.
Yes. Was this the ultimate moment of going into surrender, or did you know this before?
No. In some ways, I don't think you know it until it happens to you. You know, we can think about it as a concept, we can think about it philosophically, we can read beautiful quotes about it. And I think until you've had to do some difficult letting go and allowed something new to come into that space, I'm not sure you really know it. Like know it in your bones.
Right.
You know it in your blood, know it in how you're moving on the planet. Because I think, you know, it's that whole ancient teaching in spirituality that attachments create suffering. I used to say, you know, the gap between our expectations and our reality is suffering.
Wait, can you say that again?
The gap between our expectations and our reality is suffering.
Yeah.
So if I want to reduce suffering, I need to let go of some expectations or change them or get them a little more realistic so that I can be fully in this reality, fully alive, fully loving this moment, fully living this moment.
Is surrender then the shortest distance from expectation to reality?
Reality, yes.
Yeah.
You know, you've had your own big disappointments, you know, things that you were dreaming about, things you were working hard for that didn't happen. Really tragic, unexpected losses like the fire in Paris in the opera house, in the theater, right? And it's like, oh man, I didn't realize how attached I was to that happening. And so I think we also have to remember there's a lot of grief in between these two things. You know, I had to grieve the family dreams I had that weren't going to happen. I worked with my own therapist who can tell you I did hours and hours of sobbing, you know, letting go of who I thought we were and what I thought our life was going to be like.
Yeah.
And I did that very intentionally because I knew if I didn't let go of it, it wouldn't allow enough space to really be in the truth and the reality of what was, who we were, what was happening to us, what we were working really hard on, and to receive the gifts in that space.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's really important to highlight for everyone too that just by surrendering, it doesn't mean now everything's going to be fine. We surrender and we transform. We surrender and just what you said, the grieving that also needed to happen. There's also great joys that come from that too. We grieve and also just the intense joy that also happens that helps us transform.
That's the craziness of why these two seemingly opposite things are so connected, so fundamentally interlinked. It's not easy, and yet it's so worth it. In some ways, it's easier for me to speak from this point. If you would have been interviewing me in my 30s, this might have been a very different interview.
Absolutely.
Right? Because it was like I was in hell.
Yep.
There was so much struggle and real terror. Because it's like, I think if I give all of this up, I'm being a bad person, right? I'm not fighting hard enough. I should just buck up more, right? Not working hard enough, right? All that criticism and judgment comes in. And strangely enough, I think that's part of surrender too, is realizing I can let go of all of that and still be safe. I don't have to beat myself up to protect myself. I don't have to beat myself up to know that I really love my family and that I'm going to go the extra mile because I love them. So, it's messy. We talk about our life becoming pilgrimage. You've heard us speak about this. You're on this road, you're on this incredible journey, and you have no idea what's going to be on the road up ahead. But you keep taking the next step, and you keep meeting the next fellow pilgrim. You keep looking for a soft place in the forest to sleep when you're tired. And you keep going, knowing that it's going to matter. It's going to make life different. It's going to give you new eyes. It's going to give you new ears. It's going to give you a new heart if you really surrender to the journey.
There's so much trust involved with surrender.
Yep. And of course, as humans, we don't do trust very well. Right. Bring the armor back on, please. Thank you very much.
I love the grounding of reading Webster's dictionary definition of surrender.
Yes.
Just to give the people what actually surrender is. Surrender, to abandon oneself entirely to a powerful emotion or influence, to give into. And then another said to give oneself over to something such as an influence. So I guess my question with that is, in that definition, you are giving over to someone, something. So what are we surrendering to, Rita? Like, what is that? What are we actually, how can we trust it? What's there?
We're surrendering to letting everything in our life go that isn't truly us. It isn't our divine essence. The image that's coming to mind are, how the barnacles grow on the bottom of ships. And at some point, the ship has to surrender to be taken out of the water, have its hull scraped in order that it can move freely in the water. Over time, we get barnacles in life, right? We get stuff that we've picked up or that's gotten attached to us or that we've become attached to that is slowing us down. It's breaking the flow of our life and our aliveness. So I have to surrender to influence. I have to surrender to others stepping up to help me out so that I can get back to that flow of divine essence, the very thing I think we're created to be, without anything slowing me down, so to speak. And that brings up another big part of me learning in surrender that I had to accept other people's help. I had to accept that I couldn't do it all. Several of my clients will tease me about this, but it's one of my favorite things we practice that came from my teachers, is I have 2 invisible tattoos.
Yes. I love this so much.
And I have one on this arm, my left forearm, which says, "This is not about me." We want to make it all about us, which gets us into lots of trouble, as well as creating lots of unnecessary suffering. So learning that 95 to 98% of other people's behavior is not about me, right? It's about them. It's telling me about their life, their experiences, what they're experiencing in the moment. And if I can avoid taking it personally, I can stand in a much better grounded place to be present to them. So that was one piece, because it's hard to receive anything if you think I have to do it all It's all about me. I have to be super mom. My family also knows, and friends, and some of my clients know the story about how I ended up in the emergency room at Children's Hospital because being a super mom, I decided to give blood. And it was very embarrassing because everybody in the ER knew us and our family. I mean, we had been there at least twice a month for almost a year with our son. Now I'm on the gurney,
Oh my
you
God.
know, I'm vomiting, I can't stay conscious, right? So then it's like, okay, I'm gonna need help. I can't be the one to give all the blood
Got it.
because my other invisible tattoo is I'm not that powerful. I can't rescue everything and everybody. I can't always save the day. I don't always have all the answers. So being able to let go, thinking everything's about me, and let go of thinking I'm the one who has to do it all and that I'm so powerful is a really interesting, juicy piece of surrender because man, as soon as nobody's looking, I'm gonna scoop it right back up.
Right.
It's like
I know,
Velcro.
that's right.
So then I go back to my invisible tattoo and I'm going, nope, I'm not that powerful. This isn't mine to rescue. And it helps me let go of my big ego attachments, right? Because as soon as I come in trying to do everything for everybody, yep, there's my big ego. You know, I'm like, I'm the best sacrificial doormat on the planet. I'm just an exhausted medical mom. Here I am. So those two pieces, and I made them invisible tattoos because I need to be reminded regularly. So it's helpful because then I surrender, I ground back in the moment and let myself be a human being again.
Yeah.
I let myself receive help from other people. You know, growing up rough and tumble on a farm where we were taught to be super independent and rely on nobody, man, that was a hard lesson.
Once you're relearning this, that it's not about me and I'm not that powerful, what does it leave you with?
It leaves you in relationships, right? If I make it all about me and if I make me that powerful, I end up alone. I end up alone.
Yep.
When that finally connected in me, that I could be a human being, that I could surrender and I could be loved, I could be in relationship. However messy and imperfect those relationships are and those people are in my life, it's like somehow we become worthy after we surrender.
Oh, we become worthy after we surrender. If we fully surrender, is there a chance that we will then transform into something that we didn't want to do? Or are we guaranteed this great outcome? Rita.
That is such a great question. I love that question. I think the more we surrender, the more we become authentic and the more we have better boundaries, right? That's part of the invisible tattoos as well, right? It doesn't mean I'm going to surrender to someone who has bad intentions towards me. It doesn't mean I'm going to surrender to being exploited at a workplace, right? What I'm surrendering to is my own transformation into a person that's fully human, fully grounded, that has good boundaries. I want my yes to be yes and my no to be no. It means I'm going to make mistakes and learn from them. It doesn't mean I'm going to become less than fully me. We tend to look outside ourselves. It's like we want people to earn our trust, but then we don't trust ourselves sometimes, and we just end up so tangled up. So trust becomes this messy sort of power play. And I think when we do the work of transformation and we lean into trusting our essence and trusting the journey that I'm on, then I don't have to give my power away to other people to earn this trust.
Yeah.
I'm going to trust people. I'm going to trust what they say. I'm going to trust what their behaviors are saying. And I'm going to look for the bigger story. And at the same time, I'm going to have good boundaries. I'm not going to put them in a situation to harm me. I'm not going to put myself in a situation to harm them, at least not knowingly, because we're each a sacred being. And I want to receive everyone in my life as someone sacred. It ties a little bit into belonging, because I think belonging is such a deep longing in all of us, longing to be in relationship, longing to be a part of community. And for some of my friends and clients who are in isolation, I mean, true isolation during this quarantine, they have no family, no friends. They're pretty much locked in a room most of the time. I mean, this is really deeply wounding that they lose their sense of belonging.
Yeah.
So I've also been looking at, what does it mean when I look outside myself for belonging? What does it look like when I create belonging? Right? It's when we're younger, we're kind of looking for our tribe. Where do I fit in? Where's my group? And I think one of the gifts of being in the second half of life is that, as I've decided, well, I'm just going to make you all my tribe and you can decide, right? There's this writer in Ireland, Pádraig Ó Tuama, and he said that one of the reasons he thinks we wrestle so much with immigration issues and diversity issues is we see diversity as a threat to our belonging. And that just really hit me. Yeah, it's like we're so used to belonging with people who look like us, think like us, vote like us, practice COVID restrictions like us. So if I'm going to change my paradigm and make diversity my tribe, then I don't have to go around in the world grasping or fighting for my place to belong. Because I get to create a place to belong. I get to say, you all belong to me as part of the human family. And that gets us back into the flow, right? That's getting those barnacles off the boat. I'm not sitting around waiting for someone to say that I belong. I'm going to be.
Oh, I love that. Yes.
I think that's part of the liberation side of surrender. Right? I don't have to wait. I don't have to give my power away to other people. I don't have to wait around for somebody to earn my trust. I'm stepping into that bigger picture.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm only here for a bleep of historic moment. So what am I going to do with it? How do I want to mess with it? Knowing that it's temporary. And knowing that ultimately I belong to the bigger web, the true World Wide Web.
Yes.
Of the whole planet. And if I belong to that, then all of that belongs to me. And how am I in relationship with it? How do I love it? How do I let it love me?
That's so beautiful. It's just everything that we need to hear right now. You're just, will you give us one final thing for our marination station, the station we come to marinate in some delicious Rita Berglund wisdom? What would you give to us? What would you task us with of how we can go deeper into our surrender this week?
So the first thing, I have to say that as soon as I heard that phrase, marination station, I thought, oh, good, we're going to the cosmic spa.
The cosmic spa, you guys. We so are. We're just in that hot tub waiting in the
just bring it on,
Oh, that's so good. The cosmic spa, yes?
Yep. We're in the Blue Lagoon in Iceland.
Yes, we are.
So as I've been thinking about this, and it came up earlier, and I'm going to kind of circle back around to it, but I think sort of the ultimate act of surrender is letting ourselves be loved. However imperfectly the people around us are doing it, let ourselves be imperfectly cared for. Let ourselves truly receive the best wishes that other people send us, and see ourselves as worthy, see them as worthy. I think there's something really tragic when somebody says, I love you, or I want to give you this affirmation, and you feel it get knocked away. Oh, no, you don't need to do that. No, that's not really true. Right? It hurts us.
Yes.
And so I think one of the things I learned in learning to receive is that when I receive love from somebody, when I receive a gift from somebody, it's gifting them as well. It's all connected, right? And if I reject it, I'm also rejecting something of them. So this sort of willingness to be able to receive care, to receive love, because we certainly need it during this time. I need people who don't know me to care about me enough to be careful. Those people need me to be careful. Of course, I need my family's love. I need my friends' love. And I need to give love. And the more that that exchange is open, if we're surrendering to that open, energetic exchange in the best of human relationships, however messy or imperfectly it shows up, I think that is what transforms us ultimately. That's what gets rid of the barnacles and puts us in the flow. Marinate in receiving love, marinate in receiving care and kindness. Know that that is what transforms all of us into the best version of ourselves.
That is so awesome. I want to stay in this marination station for a long time. I'm involved. Just love soup, Rita. Just love soup. Thank you.
Just rub it on that beautiful face, baby.
Surrender on here. I'm gonna surrender here and leave it on for 20 minutes.
Go for it.
Yeah, there's a time limit to surrender, right, Rita? Thank you so much for being here with us and sharing your heart and your soul and your story. You know, I just think the absolute world of you, and I'm so grateful that everybody gets to know you now on this and just little piece of you. Thank you so much for bringing so many amazing things to light for us about surrender.
Thank you, Sierra.
Yeah.
Thank you.